Okay, you guys, this is something that was sort of suggested to me. Well, wasn't really suggested. It was asked. And so then I decided it was something I might want to do. So, Storm Shadow asked if I was going to make a list of my favorite films of the decade, and that was really intriguing and challenging because there have been a lot of movies I've liked, and so I had to go through year by year and refresh my memory as to the movies that had come out. There were a lot that I had forgotten about, and so I picked several for each year, and the one that made the top spot for me was the one that just invoked the most positive or enjoyable feelings about it, something that I wouldn't mind watching again and again. There are honorable mentions for the ones that didn't make it into the top spot. Some of them, it was really close between, like number one and the next honorable mention. And I think there's one year where I have two of them tied as my favorite. So it's my list. I can construct it how I want to. So that's what I did. So we're going to start with the year 2010, and I'm going to try to move as quickly as I can because I have a lot of different movies that I just wanted to touch on. Always, right? Anyway, I was saying I have a lot of different movies I want to touch on, so I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. But if I feel like it's going long, and also if my computer starts to overheat, I may have to do this in batches. And if it goes a certain amount of time, I will probably cut it into parts because I tend to ramble, even though I don't mean to, but my mind goes in all these different directions of things that I think about that I want to say. Anyway, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this. So for 2010, there are only about 3 movies on this list, and I'm going to start with honorable mentions and move my way down to number 1. So the first honorable mention is Daybreakers. It's been a while since I've seen some of these movies, you guys, and I haven't gone to relook up, the synopsis for all of them, so I'll just try to very briefly explain what it's about. This is a vampire movie, and it's about they're like somebody's trying to find a cure or something like that, and this is really vague, but basically vampire. I like vampire stuff, and this one was done pretty well because in this one the vampires they're not animalistic for the most part. They live these normal white collar type lives, go home and they have their bottle of, instead of a glass of wine, it's like a glass of blood or whatever. So it was kind of interesting. Pretty, bloody, gory in parts, obviously, but I personally really liked this. Ethan Hawke is the main actor. Willem Dafoe is in it, and Sam Neill. And that's that. When I looked back through the list, that one was one of the first ones that caught my eye, and it didn't make number 1. I don't know exactly why. I think it's just because the one that I picked for number 1, I have watched many more times, and I really, really like this movie. So the next honorable mention, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. This one is, they took Deathly Hallows and they split it up into 2 parts. I felt like they didn't really need to do that, but just because I really enjoyed the Harry Potter movies so much, I had to include this on the list. So those are just the only 2 honorable mentions, and so the number 1 for 2010 for me is this one, The Next 3 Days. I really like this movie. It's well acted, it's well directed, it's well written. It stars Russell Crowe, obviously, as you can tell, and his wife is played by Elizabeth Banks, and she gets accused of murder, and she goes to jail, and he does not believe that she's done it. So, they've exhausted all their appeals processes, and he decides finally he's going to break her out of jail. And that's what this movie is about. I'm not going to get into any real spoilers about these movies in case anyone hasn't seen them. I mean, it's been out for almost 10 years, so. But anyway, just in case. So that's my top 3 for 2010. That's my top 1. I'm going to move on to 2011. Okay, so for 2011, it would not be complete without including the conclusion to the Harry Potter saga, The Deathly Hallows Part 2. I thought it was done pretty well. It had been a while since I'd listened to the last book before I watched this, so obviously I forgot little details, but I really liked the film adaptation of these books, and I especially liked the last movie. You know, the last 2 movies combined to me are kind of like one movie, but I really feel like it brought this whole world to life, and it just, the seriousness of everything, it got darker and darker until the end. It was just like pretty dark, you know, for a YA story. And I like the film adaptation, and so I have to put it on the list for 2011. So the next movie, the next honorable mention is The Lincoln Lawyer. Now this was a book that I had listened to years ago. I remember I was driving to the airport one day. I've told this story before, not on here, but to different people. I was driving to the airport to pick up my brother. He was coming into town for a surprise visit, and I was listening to this. And I got to this very climactic moment, and I was so into this book, I just went right past the exit. So I had to do a U-turn and come back around. It's not good to be listening to audiobooks while you're driving, I think, sometimes. So when I found out it was going to be made into a movie, I was really excited. My husband and I went to go see this movie while the kids and their cousin went to go see Rango, that animated movie with Johnny Depp. He's a lizard or something. Anyway, I digress. I feel like this was a super good adaptation of the book. It really hit all of the important parts, followed the storyline pretty well. That climactic scene was in the movie. And so, yeah, super good. I really have no complaints about this film adaptation or this movie at all, really. So it made my honorable mention. Next movie. Thor. Thor is not really the most appreciated of the MCU movies. I mean, it is above Captain Marvel, but everything else is above Captain Marvel as far as audience scores go, and with a good reason. Captain Marvel did not make any of my lists. So Thor, I thought, was really good. Chris Hemsworth comes in, and he's kind of a sort of an unknown. I mean, I had only seen him in Star Trek. He played Captain Kirk's father in the very beginning, and I did see him in A Perfect Getaway, the one with Mila Jovovich and Timothy Olyphant, and he was in there. But Thor, of course, is the movie that I started to notice him more as an actor, and I feel like this movie was pretty well done. If I remember correctly, Thor was the first MCU movie to introduce supernatural-ish mythology sort of stuff. Before that, it was Iron Man and Incredible Hulk. You could say Incredible Hulk is supernatural-ish, but it was, to me, it's more like science-based type thing, even though, yes, okay, it's stretching it, maybe sci-fi, whatever. Anyway, so Thor comes out, and I liked it. It was lighthearted when it needed to be, serious when it needed to be, but not overly heavy-handed with seriousness and doom and gloom and stuff like that. I feel like the actors did a pretty good job. I was not happy with Natalie Portman being in there just because I don't care for her for various reasons. She's just not my favorite at all. So I could do without her being in there. But overall, it was a fun movie, and I feel like the acting choices, except for her, were pretty spot on. I liked everybody's performances. And so that's why it makes my honorable mention for 2011. Moving on. Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I did not watch this the year it came out. In fact, a lot of these movies I didn't watch the year they came out, but I put them in that respective year because that's when they came out, even though I didn't happen to see it then. So technically, maybe it's not really, you know, my favorite of 2011 because I didn't watch it in 2011. But I digress. That's technical stuff. Doesn't matter. This movie is hilarious. It's a dark comedy. It's about these two hillbilly, rednecky guys that come into contact with these college students, and there's all this misunderstanding that happens, and the college students think these two guys are killers, you know, because they kind of look at it first, you know, you wonder. But it does turn out that there is a real killer running around. But this is hilarious because of all the misunderstandings that happen, and it's just so, it's slapsticky. It's very bloody slapsticky comedy. That's about the best way I can think to describe it. You guys should watch it. Okay, next one. X-Men First Class. So I really like this film. I know it plays with the timeline in a way that's not really quite accurate, especially like when the next one came out, but it was fun. I liked seeing the younger cast for the different characters, and I felt like it flowed really well, and it was quite enjoyable. And I'm going to move on quickly to the next one. Okay, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. So, Mission Impossible, I can't remember when Mission Impossible 3 came out. Anyway, whatever. So the first Mission Impossible, when I saw it, it was okay, but I wasn't super impressed with it. And then the second movie came out, and it was so bad, you guys. It was so bad. I was like, oh my gosh, it's just getting worse and worse. Then the third movie came out. I can't remember what the third movie was called. This is the fourth one. But the third movie came out before 2010. Anyway, when the third movie came out, it was such an improvement. I was so impressed with it. And then the movies just got better and better. I mean, they didn't really degrade in quality. The action was great. The writing was pretty good. So then I went and I revisited the first one a year or plus ago. And upon the second rewatching, I appreciate it much more now. I feel like it was pretty solid. I really had such a bad experience with the second one that I do not want to watch it again. So I don't really even count that one. But because this one came out in 2011, this is on my list of honorable mentions. So let's move on to the next. I believe the next one actually might be my number one. I think so. Here we go. Yes. My number one for 2011. I did not see this until about 2012, but Warrior with Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton. It's a drama. It's a character drama, but it involves a lot of sort of action in the sense that these guys are like MMA, UFC type fighters. I don't know the difference. I use those terms interchangeably. If I'm wrong, sorry. Anyway, I had heard it was good, and then my brother told me about how he had seen it and it was really good. So when he was in town for my grandfather's funeral, we ended up watching it at that time. So I kind of have sad memories associated with it, but the movie's really, really good. These two brothers are estranged. Alcoholism had torn their family apart, and they come back into contact with each other. And it ends up that they both join this MMA tournament, and at the end, they meet together in the final match. So with all the tensions going on, it just adds such an extra layer of heavy, intense drama. And Nick Nolte plays their alcoholic father. His performance in this movie was excellent, you guys. He was nominated for an Oscar. He did not win. I feel like he should have. It was so good. This movie will lift you up, and yet at the same time just crush your heart with just so sad in some places. And because you can sort of identify with what these people are going through, and probably, you know, other people more so than maybe me, because I didn't have the type of home life that these characters did. But I can understand, you know, the feelings that they must be going through, and this you know, heartache and everything of them being split apart, and you know, the ramifications of that through their lives. And anyway, so it's a super good movie. I recommend it to everyone. This movie, I do believe, is probably in my top 10, one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time, I believe. But I need to go reanalyze that list. Anyway, okay, moving on to 2012. 2012. This is my first honorable mention. The Hunger Games. Hunger Games, the first entry in the Hunger Games series. I had read the books or listened to the books, and they were really good. I liked them. And you know, after Harry Potter, I was wanting another really good YA series to sink my teeth into, or let's say my ears into. And the Hunger Games did not disappoint. When the movies came out, I was really happy when they announced they were going to make an adaptation of it, and I went to go see the movie with my kids and my folks. And I really liked it. I thought it was a very good adaptation. I feel like Jennifer Lawrence's performance was good. Everybody else in here was really good. Obviously, you know, it's a dystopian world that's been created, so there is certainly this underlying sense of seriousness and danger, which you know, is compelling to me. I like it when those types of things are, you know, interwoven into stories, because it gives you a real sense of conflict and urgency to what's going on, and your concern for the characters. So anyway, yeah, I like this. I felt like it was really good. Okay, next honorable mention. The Dark Knight Rises. I don't like this movie as much as The Dark Knight. Out of the three Batman, the Nolan Batman trilogy movies, The Dark Knight is, in my opinion, the absolute best. I like the other two. I don't know if I could say equally. I'm not sure really how I compare this one with the first one. I really like this one. There were some parts in there that were kind of silly, ridiculous. The Batman Catwoman kiss scene at the end when he's getting ready to go off with the bomb. I thought that was just like, okay, there's no time for that, you know. The clock's ticking. Stop it. But, you know, silly little things like that. Overall, I really, really liked this movie. I felt like it was a satisfying conclusion to the trilogy. I love Tom Hardy's performance. I feel like he was perfect in this part as Bane. And so, yeah, so there's that one. Okay, next one, obviously The Avengers. You know, this was the moment we'd been waiting for from the time Iron Man came out in 2008, and then you had Incredible Hulk, and then you had Thor, and then The Avengers. I believe those were the three that led up to The Avengers. And I remember when it first came out, when there was even talk of it, and it just felt like it was going to be ages until an actual Avengers movie brought everybody together. And nope, finally it came, and there we were. And of course, in this movie, Mark Ruffalo replaced, what's his name? Oh, shoot. You know, the guy who played him in the other movie, the original MCU movie, Edward Norton. That's the guy. It was okay. It was an all right switch. I feel like Mark Ruffalo has done a pretty decent job at this, and I prefer to watch some of his, I mean, Edward Norton has never really been an actor that's done a whole lot for me, as far as like, he's just not that inspiring to watch. So I wasn't really heartbroken at the switch or anything. I mean, I wouldn't have minded if he'd stayed, but it didn't really bother me too much that that the switch happened. So yeah, fun movie. Obviously, yes, it's in my DVD collection. It's not my top though. Just for whatever reason, it's not my top. Maybe when I see the top one again and I'm reminded. Let me look at my paper. Okay, yeah, I know why it's not my top. Okay, next honorable mention. Looper. I had forgotten about this one completely. I had to be reminded of it when I went back looking for certain movies with a particular theme, time travel type movies, which I love. And so Looper came out this year. I didn't see it until 2013, but I really enjoyed this film. I felt like Joseph Gordon-Levitt did a great job impersonating Bruce Willis, the little kid that was in here, the crazy kid. He's like had all these crazy powers. That kid was scary looking when he went all like, you know, full crazy. Anyway, I liked it. It's been a while since I've seen it. Oh my goodness, years. I feel like I should watch it again. Some of these movies, I feel like maybe my perception of them or my feeling about them might change if I rewatch them. But right now, for purposes of this list, this is just my instinctive reaction to how I feel about them right now. A year or two down the line, maybe this list would change, but for now, this is what it is. So let's move on to number one. Number one, Skyfall. I didn't see this until early 2013 when I was sick to death with the flu. And I love this movie. I like the James Bond franchise, but I'm not like super into it. And I was never really crazy about Daniel Craig. He's okay. Never really been super crazy about all of them or any of them. It's just, he's all right, you know. But Skyfall was the first James Bond movie since maybe From Russia with Love that I was like super into. Like I was just captivated from the moment it started until the moment it ended. It just really had me like, oh my goodness. So for that reason, this particular movie was pretty momentous for me, and so that's why it made my number one for 2012. So let's move on to 2013. 2013, first honorable mention, Man of Steel. The first time I watched it, I liked it, but I wasn't like, oh, I really, really like this. But it's grown on me, and I really am digging Henry Cavill as Superman. I have always felt like he was a really, really good choice. He's got the body for it. He's got the face for it. He's got the nice hair and everything. He's a good actor. And so I had to put this on my honorable mention list just because of that. And in fact, I feel like I should watch this one again too. Ever since I watched Witcher, I'm like, oh, I want to watch everything with Henry Cavill in it again. So I really liked Witcher. That was a good show. Okay, moving on. Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Last Stand. This was the first movie that Arnold made when he quit. Well, like the first movie with him as the main actor that he worked on after he was not governor of California anymore. And not all of Arnold's movies have been, all that great. Certainly I like some better than others. But The Last Stand for me for that particular year was 2013. That's my favorite one. Well, not my favorite Arnold, but one of my favorites for the year. So that's why I had to put it on the honorable mention. It was just a fun time, typical Arnold movie. He's a cop trying to stop this drug guy that's going to be racing through his town to try to make a beeline for Mexico to get away from the authorities. So yeah, fun movie. And that's another one I should watch again. But I actually saw that one not too long ago, maybe a year or so ago. So maybe I'll hit some of the other ones on this list before I get back to this one. Okay, next one. Okay, Star Trek Into Darkness. One of the main reasons that this makes my honorable mention is because, well, I like Benedict Cumberbatch. And so when I found out he was going to be in this movie, I was excited about that. So I know there was some, at the time that when I first started watching it, I didn't know who he was supposed to be. So then when it was revealed that he was Khan, I was like, I don't like it when they change things up too much, like when you've got an established character that is, a certain race or gender, sex, whatever, and then they go and they switch it up dramatically. I'm not a fan of that. But this still, and I'm not a fan of the fact that they did that, but because he's in here and because I like him, and I have liked the new Star Trek movies, pretty well, this is why it makes my honorable mention for 2013. Moving on. Of course, the next entry in the Hunger Games movie series, Catching Fire. Second entry, they took the third book and they split it up into 2 movies, which I feel like they didn't really have to do, but they did it, got to make that money. Anyway, another good entry. Not much more to say about this one. Moving on. World War Z is, I do believe, my last honorable mention for 2013 until we get to my top one. I like this movie. There were a lot of problems that apparently was going on with this during production and everything, and I did not listen to the book for this until after I had seen the movie. This is completely different from the book, but in my opinion, that's not really a bad thing. The book, the one that I listened to, I don't think there's been another one. I just listened to, there was just one, I thought. It just basically followed stories of different people. It was like an anthology type thing. But this one takes one character and follows him throughout his, journey of, navigating through this horrible thing that's happening. But he's a scientist, so he's also trying to figure out a cure. So there's a lot of globe hopping going on and a lot of tense moments, and I really like this. The zombies in here were scary. They were not sluggish or slow. They ran like a sprinter at the Olympics. Very scary. So, but a lot of fun to watch. Okay, so my favorite movie for 2013 was this one, Tom Cruise in Oblivion. This also happens to be my favorite Tom Cruise movie out of all of them. I like a lot of his movies, but this is my favorite. It was just the cinematography, the score, the acting. It was kind of mysterious because you don't really know exactly what's going on in the beginning until it's, revealed at the end. You find out, and then there's these different things that happen. I think I actually spoiled this in one of my other videos when I brought it up for whatever reason. Sorry about that. I won't spoil it here, but this is just a really great movie. And it has been a little while since I've seen it, and I feel like I would like to watch it again. This is getting me in the mood to watch all these movies again. So yes, that's my number one for 2013. Moving on to 2014. So 2014, my first honorable mention is another Tom Cruise movie, Edge of Tomorrow. This one was one of those time, live, die, repeat, his day repeated as he's trying to figure out a way to defeat these aliens that they're fighting. This was really good. The action was good. The acting was good. Cinematography was great. Just a really fun film. It's not my favorite. Like I said, my favorite Tom Cruise movie is Oblivion, but this one is certainly a really good entry on his filmography list. Okay, next one. Next honorable mention is The Equalizer with Denzel Washington. I like this movie a whole lot more than I thought I would. I mean, I didn't think I would dislike it, but I really, really liked it. I like Training Day too, but I think I like this one better than Training Day because in this one he's a good guy. I don't like to see Denzel being a bad guy because I like Denzel. Anyway, really good movie. He plays this guy that's helping this girl out who's in trouble, like this teenage girl, and very well done, and I do recommend it. Okay, moving on. Obviously, I recommend it if it's on my list. Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't know anything about the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was getting this movie mixed up with another movie that had Guardian or Guardians in the name. It was about a bunch of owls. So for a while, I just didn't realize what this was about. I was hearing a lot of buzz about it. And then, of course, when it came out, it got these great reviews. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll go see it. I wasn't even going to go see it at first. I don't know. Went to go see it and a whole lot of fun. Obviously, most of you guys have probably seen this, so there's really not much to say about it. I loved the character dynamics, the way they interacted with each other. So much personality here. And one of my favorite scenes in here was the Kevin Bacon with sticks up their butts. Oh my gosh, that was so fun. I don't know, little silly things like that really crack me up. Okay, moving on to the next one. X-Men: Days of Future Past. So yeah, the timeline's all wonky. People haven't aged the way they should age if this is really supposed to take place in a certain time. But it's time travel and it's the X-Men, and I have liked most of the X-Men movies, not all of them. I was not crazy about Apocalypse, and I started to watch that latest one, Dark Phoenix. Was that what it was called? Ugh, no, I can't. Number one, I think Sophie Turner, isn't that her name? The chick from Game of Thrones. I think she was a horrible choice for Jean Grey. Horrible. And that's one of the reasons why I wasn't crazy about Apocalypse. But I didn't mind Apocalypse so much. But when I started watching this other one, it's like, oh gosh, no. Gotta stop. Too much woke silliness in that thing for me. And by that point, Mystique was getting annoying to me. And Jennifer Lawrence in general was getting annoying to me. And that whole narrative, that whole little preachy thing she did to Professor X about, seems that we're always saving your butt. We should call this the X-Women, not the X. I was like, oh, shut up, woman. What about all these times when the men have saved your butt and Charles is in a wheelchair because he stepped in front of a bullet to save somebody and you're sitting there preaching? Oh, I can't. I was like, nope. So when okay, I'm gonna spoil it. She gets killed in the she gets killed in the Dark Phoenix one, and I wasn't sad at all. Anyway, but I do like this movie. I feel like this one was well done. Like I said, the time travel aspect really makes me like it a lot just because I like that sort of thing. And, more of the characters that we like to watch. So that's why this one makes the list for 2014 honorable mention. Okay, moving on. Okay. This one, obviously, by now you're detecting a pattern with the Hunger Games, right? So you know that the one for next year is going to have part 2. So part 1, I liked it. I felt like, as I said before, it really should have been combined into one movie. I wouldn't have minded one 3-hour movie, but it really was unnecessary to do what they did. But because I do like the series quite a bit, I felt like I wanted to include this in my honorable mention list. I believe the next one coming up is going to be this next one coming up is going to be one that almost tied to be first, but I decided, no, the one that's first, I actually do like it quite a bit more. So the next one, Odd Thomas. Odd Thomas is a series of books written by Dean Koontz, and it's about this guy who can communicate or see ghosts. They don't talk to him, but he carries on conversations with them, and they help him solve, like different mysteries or whatever, and they hang around them. Elvis is always hanging around him, stuff like that. Anyway, this movie was an adaptation of the first book in the series. Sadly, they couldn't make any more, not just because of this poor guy's passing, but also because something was going on with like the production company and lawsuits or whatever. And so, when this one was made, it was like there probably wasn't going to be any more. And then of course, once he passed, there would be no more with him in it. But I like this one because I feel like, well, he was a perfect choice for this character. Now, when I listened to the books, I didn't really have his face in my head. I listened to the books before I saw the movie. But when I saw he was cast and I watched the movie, he was wonderful in this part. And the movie itself was a very good adaptation of the book. I do recommend this. A lot of fun. Okay, my number one movie for 2014 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I did not put the first Captain America in my list of favorites for 2011 because I was disappointed in that movie. Didn't like it as much as I was hoping to. So, when this one came around, it was so good. It was so good. I loved the character dynamic, all of this stuff. I love the whole thing about, these two friends and they're at odds with each other. And of course, Bucky, he's lost his memory. He's completely changed from what he used to be, but he's totally badass. Just the action scenes in here were so good. The acting was really good. The score was good. The cinematography. I have no real complaints about this movie other than the fact that Scarlett Johansson was in it. But like I said in other videos, she's grown on me, so I don't really mind her so much. But that still didn't take away from the fact that this is my absolute favorite movie of 2014 and my absolute favorite MCU movie of all time. I did not know the story of the Winter Soldier. My brother spoiled it for me. I wasn't reading comics anymore, or I had not been a Captain America comic reader, so I did not know that his friend Bucky was the Winter Soldier. Now, I wish I'd gone into this movie not knowing it, but when we saw a trailer, my brother spoiled it. He said, "You know who that guy is, don't you?" Well, I thought he meant the actor. I said, "No, who is he?" He's his friend Bucky. So I flipped out a little. Why would you tell me that? I don't want to know that. He's like, everybody knows that. I didn't know that. So anyway, I digress. Great movie. Love it. Okay, moving on to the next year. Okay, 2015. This list is a little shorter. Ant-Man. I initially wasn't super excited about Ant-Man. This is my honorary mention, obviously. I wasn't super excited about the whole idea of Ant-Man. It was okay. But, because by this point, I'm really into the MCU, and so I'm like, I'm going to go see the movies, because it's MCU, and it all is linking together and everything. So I went to go see this. A lot of fun. Paul Rudd is perfect in this part, and just the comedic tone of these Ant-Man movies are a lot of fun. Now, in the later, one of my later lists, I do not have Ant-Man and the Wasp on there. I don't know exactly why. It's okay, but I like the first one more. So, I'm trying to just instinctively, oh yeah, I really like that. That's a movie I'd like to see again and again. So like I said, tomorrow my list may be altered a little, but for right now, as of the filming of this is the way it is. So Ant-Man makes my honorary mention list for 2015. Next one. Obviously, Mockingjay Part 2. Not much more to say about that, so I'm going to move on to the next one. Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. There's another pattern here if you haven't been able to tell. The Mission Impossible movies make my list of, honorary mentions for pretty much every year they come out because they're so good. I really like this this franchise. Tom Cruise has done an excellent job, and the writers do a really good job too. Not counting the second entry, all the other movies are very solid. So there's that one. Okay, I believe the next one is going to be my favorite for the year. This one, Jurassic World. Now, the thing about 2015, I had trouble picking a favorite because I like all of these. So I don't know. Honestly, you could switch all of these up. So I would say, while I say this is my favorite of 2015, it's not like firm favorite. It could be switched around. But this one was a very fun movie. I feel like it kickstarted the franchise, brought it back again, and made it fun. Then the second one was not that good. So that was a disappointment. I hope that the third one will be an improvement over the second. So anyway, okay, there's that for 2015. I'm going to move on to 2016. Okay, 2016. Deadpool makes my list of honorary mentions. Fun film, super fun. The second one is not going to make my list just because, I don't know. I mean, it was fun and I liked it. I don't know why I didn't put it on my list, to tell you the truth. I completely forgot about Cable. That was silly. Now I don't remember what year it came out, but whatever year it came out, let's just say, maybe I'll put a little like asterisk note, Deadpool 2. Because that was a fun movie as well. And I saw it on the list and I was just like, oh no, I put the first one on. Okay, that's an error. So Deadpool, definitely fun time. I loved the way this was filmed, but was super disappointed in with what Tim Miller did with Terminator. Oh, and I was thinking that because he did such a good job with Deadpool, that meant he was going to do really good with Dark Fate. No. Okay, next one. The Accountant. I'm not super into Ben Affleck, but this movie was actually pretty good. I saw it, I think, 3 times practically in a row. Saw it at my brother's house. Watched it again with a friend, and then whatever. I've seen it at least 3 times. And I feel like it was really well done. And he plays like, what is he? Is he autistic or does he have Asperger's or something? I can't remember, but he's really good with numbers, but he's also like, he's like a killer too. I can't remember if he was a hitman. It's been a long time since I've seen this, and I should watch it again. But it was really good. I feel like the acting was good in here. The storyline was good. It was very compelling. Really drew you in, and it got pretty tense, as things were building to a climax. So because of that, it makes my honorable mention list for 2016. So there's one more honorable mention until I get to my favorite. Doctor Strange. I like Benedict Cumberbatch. I have liked him since I started watching Sherlock. And he's, Doctor Strange. This was a fun film. It's probably not my, on the very top-ish of my MCU film, my favorite MCU films. I mean, I like a lot of the MCU films. But this one makes my honorary mention list because I never really read Doctor Strange. I knew who he was, but never really read him. So this was all mind trippy, this movie and everything, but I enjoyed it. Now, when I went in and saw it, I was not super familiar with his mentor, and I found out that they did not only, I believe, a race swap on that character, but a gender swap as well. So now when I watch it and I see her character, I'm like, why? She just doesn't feel like she fit. In fact, it never really felt like she fit, to tell you the truth, because of where she was, and she's in this land over there in the Far East, and it's like you don't even really, why are you here? You just don't seem like you fit. But I went with it because I didn't really know much of anything about his story, and so now it's like, yeah, I really feel like that was a poor casting choice. And they should have not done that, in my opinion. But I still really like the movie. I think he did an excellent job as Doctor Strange, so pulled it off quite well. Okay, so my next for the top of 2016, it's actually a tie between 2 movies. So the first one that makes my favorite list for 2016 might be surprising to some people because it's not really a fan favorite, but I really like this movie. Oh no, sorry, I forgot. Wrong. Rogue One. I didn't see it there. Yes, Rogue One is still honorary mention. Sorry about that. Man, I led up to this dramatic intro and look what happened. Okay, Rogue One. Honorary mention for 2016. It came out at the end of the year in December, I believe. I really liked this movie. It was just like a standalone movie, and it was really the only one that Disney has done well, as far as I'm concerned. I saw Solo. It's okay. It's not that great. It's better than the stupid trilogy that had just concluded finally. Yeah, hate that trilogy. Hate it. I wish it had never been written. But this one was good. I like the storyline. I like the characters. It had a tragic-ish ending, which typically is something that I don't like, but it made sense with regard to the story. And I really liked how they pulled it off. So for that reason, this makes my list of honorary mention for 2016. Now we're getting to my favorites, the top 2. Okay, here we go. This. It's not a fan favorite, but in all honesty, I really like this movie. I even bought the extended cut, which I feel is good too, because it just adds so much more depth to it. Yes, there are flaws with the movie. The casting of Lex Luthor, I feel, was absolutely horrible. He is the worst part about this movie. But it brought us Wonder Woman. And I will be the first to tell you, when she was cast, when Gal Gadot was cast, I was not happy at all. I was not familiar with her acting, but I saw clips of her from some of the other movies she'd been in, like the Fast and Furious and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's a horrible choice. She's terrible. This is awful. She's a twig. She's not going to be able to pull it off. There's no way. Boy, was I wrong. So she put on about 15 pounds of muscle. She's still very slender. She just got one of those body types that's just, she's slim. She's not going to be, I can't really ever see her looking like a Linda Hamilton type, Sarah Connor. Though she didn't do too bad. But when I saw her on the screen, she's Diana Prince, and she's all, sort of seductive, but not really trying overly so. She's mysterious, right? She's mysterious. And then I had completely forgotten about her when the final battle was taking place. And then when she pops down in there in front of Batman and she does this thing and they play that music, I was like a little girl on the inside. I was like, ah! I was so happy. I was like, I was so happy. And so for that reason, and also because I actually didn't really mind the story too much. Some of the writing was a little silly, the whole Martha thing, that's kind of, okay, yeah, that's a little cheesy, but I still really like this movie. I have watched this movie several times, and I don't agree with the critic score. And the audience score, while higher than the official critic score, is still lower than I personally would rate this thing. And so, yeah, that's why it's one of my top ones for 2016. So the next top one, which I almost feel like this one is above the other one, but not really. They're kind of evenly matched. So the next one shouldn't really be a surprise. Captain America Civil War. Well, it's basically like Avengers 3 is what this one was, is what it felt like. But yeah, great ensemble cast, great writing. I feel like each character got a good amount of screen time, and it didn't feel overly rushed, despite all of the material that was in here and all of the different characters that were in here. Really fun. I like the whole theme too. Why they were at odds with each other. And in this particular movie, I was Team Cap. Tony Stark was absolutely off the rails with his mentality, with his mindset about this. He was taking what happened in the second movie. The mother of this person that died and apparently died during the events of the second movie. She's blaming him. He didn't do it. It wasn't his fault. But then he takes this guilt that she puts on him and he internalizes it, and he's like, oh yeah, it is, it is my fault and we're doing this. No, it wasn't. And you're crazy to be thinking it's okay to have the government come and regulate you, so for that reason, I was not on his side. But it hurt, it's kind of sad. It hurt to see these good guys at odds with each other. And when they had that final battle, I thought for sure that Captain America was going to kill him. Because with each of these movies, you never really know what's going to happen sometimes. I mean, I always knew that at some point, maybe Tony Stark was going to die, or Captain America, or whatever. But so yeah, I feel like this was really well done. It was also fun in the sense that it brought us Spider-Man. He showed up, and the pick of Tom Holland, I feel, was just excellent. So those are my picks for 2016. Let's move on to 2017. We're getting towards the end of the list. I have gone on and on. My voice, it might not hold out. I feel like I'm losing my voice a little. I noticed it when I was doing my last video for The Witcher. I was getting a little raspy. So, I don't know. Okay, next one. Okay, 2017, honorable mention. First honorable mention is Thor Ragnarok. This movie, the first time I saw it, was not a good time in my life at that particular moment. My mom had just been diagnosed with colon cancer. She's fine now, thank God. But it had just happened a few days before we saw this, so I couldn't really fully enjoy or appreciate this film. But I've seen it a few times since then, and it's really fun. Very comedic. The Valkyrie was annoying, but she was a pretty essential part to the movie, so whatever. Yeah, fun film. Don't really have a whole lot to add to it. Just that's on my honorable mention list. Next one, Logan. This movie was really, really good, you guys. I mean, it was so well done. The pick for, what was her character's name? Was it Maria or something? Daphne is the actress's name. She was so good in this movie, and he was so good in this movie, and it was terrible to see him go. I hated that this is his last movie. Now there's talk of him possibly coming back. I don't know. As far as I understand it, he's done. But this was an excellent entry. Probably one of the best X-Men entry. I know it's not really an X-Men. It's more like a Wolverine movie, but it's still part of the X-Men. So I think this is probably right on up there with X-Men 2. Just super, maybe even a little bit better, just because, I don't know, it just felt so much more raw, and it was rated R. So anyway, okay, moving on. Spider-Man Homecoming. This makes my honorable mention list for 2017. 2017 is not super long. There's a couple more before I get to number one. But yeah, fun movie. Like the comedy, like the writing, like the acting, like the filming. Did not see the twist coming at the end, so that really added a layer, like towards the end, that really added a layer of tension to the whole thing. So I really like that. Yeah, don't have a whole lot to say about it, and I'm trying to wrap this on up before my computer fries, because it gets hot when I film these things, and I haven't stopped at all. So let's move on to the next one. Coco. So Coco, I saw it around just not long after Thor Ragnarok, sometime in December of that year, 2017, and still quite sad, because of everything that was going on with my mom. And the theme of this movie is death. Wasn't really the best time. And then that same month, my husband's mother died, and then not long after that, his sister and niece were in a terrible accident. They got paralyzed, and then not long after that, his father died. So this movie actually carries with it for me a lot of sadness, and it still does, because I feel like I'm just not removed enough from, in my mind emotionally, from all those bad things that were happening, especially just because of the whole theme. It's all about death, but it's very well done. The voice acting in here is excellent. I also love the Spanish voice acting cast that they got for this. So because I recognize some of the people. Marco Antonio Solis did the singing, and he's such a good singer. But yeah, this is a really good film, and the main character's name is Hector. So that was kind of cool, because my husband's name, that's his name. So not the main character, that dude, the skeleton guy. But anyway, yeah, really good film, and it's probably one of my favorites as far as the Disney Pixar. It was very colorful, and it was fun, touching, but comedic at the same time. So anyway, okay, I think that might be no, that's not my last one for 2017. for the honorable mentions. This one, Happy Death Day. I did not see this when it came out in theaters, but I heard about it and I heard it was really good. Oh, and I just realized that this is a foreign language poster picture. Oops. Okay. Okay, I see something about Get Out, The Purge, and The Visit. Okay. Oh, sorry about that, you guys. I was just so many images. Anyway, Happy Death Day. Really fun movie. This is one of those day repeat type things, and she's trying to solve her murder. So it's comedic, a little bit of horror element going on, suspense, thriller, stuff like that, and day repeating, which is fun material for me because it gets into the whole time travel type stuff, which I really like. So yeah, that's my last honorable mention for 2017. So the number one for 2017, there was no question about this. There was no debate about this one at all. I just knew right away that one was the one. Wonder Woman. Such high expectation for this movie, you guys. She was my childhood hero. I read her comics, loved her character. I was Wonder Woman. I mean, I would dress up in her costume and I'd go outside and I'd do the twirl around and remove my clothes to reveal my Wonder Woman costume underneath. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I was one of those kids. So, you know, I knew by the time this movie came out, or that when it was going to come out, that I was happy with her as the role of Wonder Woman, but I was very, very nervous about how she was going to be portrayed and what the underlying theme of this movie was going to be. Was it going to be with a feminist narrative that man equals bad and woman is savior? I don't like that at all. I feel like it's a very destructive narrative to be putting forth. That was one of the reasons why I absolutely hate Captain Marvel. Not only that, but Brie Larson herself bringing that toxicity to it with some of the stuff she was saying before the movie. So yeah, that just no. But this one, I was really nervous about, but I was also afraid it was going to just not be written very well, that it was just going to be cheesy and ridiculous, and some parts might be a little bit, but I stayed away from trailers. I stayed away from reviews. I accidentally saw the Rotten Tomato score when I was going online to buy tickets. But then I had already heard a little bit of buzz, even though I kept trying to plug my ears. It's hard to escape stuff, right? So I went in, but I was still nervous. And I go in, and it's like, oh, this is really good. This is really good. Oh, and then the no man's land battle scene, and I'm like getting chills, and she's got the shield. It's like, oh my gosh, the score, the acting, just phenomenal. So good. But I was still worried, like, oh, is this going to be like man-hating type? But my fears were put to rest in the scene after the no man's land battle. They've liberated the town. They're all sitting around and happy, and Steve comes up to her, and she makes some sort of comment about like, oh, basically the town, everybody's happy. And he said to her, you did this. And she said to him, we did. And at that point, I remember very clearly at that point when I was watching, I was like, oh, it's going to be okay. And it was okay. The movie's awesome. I love it. It's one of my top 10. Hasn't beaten Terminator 2. I don't really think anything can, but it is right on up there. Excellent film. So good. And an absolutely wonderful adaptation of her character. I'm really looking forward to 1984, but I haven't watched any trailers. I'm nervous. I hope it doesn't do like a sequel, shakiness. Sometimes the sequels aren't all that great, but sometimes they can be really good. So let's hope that's the case with this one. All right, moving on to 2018. Okay, 2018 honorable mention. First honorable mention is going to be Black Panther. I really like this movie. Never really read the Black Panther comics as a kid, but I knew who he was. So I was obviously interested in this. And of course, we were introduced to his character in Civil War, and I really liked his portrayal of Black Panther. So obviously I was super interested in the movie, and I like the movie. A lot of people feel like that the guy who played Michael B. Jordan, who played the bad guy in here, that he was, one of the villains that had more depth to him. And he sort of kind of did, but at the same time, I don't know. At the same time, he was too filled with like racist rage and just anger and like white people, and just, so to me he was like a caricature, like a just I mean, he did fine as far as his acting. That's not the, but I couldn't really feel too sorry for his character. Like, when the final battle happens, and yeah, okay, I'm spoiling this, and he's defeated, right? And he, you're supposed to feel sad, and what I felt sad about was him as a little boy. But even him as a little boy, he was so tainted and so messed up because of, how he'd been brought up. And his father, realized that too late. And so by then he was already very twisted by his environment and, what he had gone through. And so that just made him full of so much hate that he didn't really become that much of a super complex character. He was just somebody who wanted to, crush people beneath him and rule over everybody. Very typical of a, supervillain type. So to me, he didn't really have the level of depth that some people were saying that he did. But I still like the movie. The action sequences in here were great. I loved the portrayal of Wakanda. It's getting late, you guys. My tongue's just tripping over itself. Anyway, so yeah, fun movie. That's why it has to make my honorable mention. I could watch this several times, and I have already. So, okay, next one. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I like animated movies. I just don't watch as many of them as I watch live action films. So it didn't really occur to me until after I watched it, when they're talking about Spider-Verse, they're talking about multiverses. And that's why there's all these different Spider-Men from the different, parallel universes coming in. So I'm a little dopey sometimes when it comes to catching on to stuff like that. But, so yeah, this was a fun movie. The dialogue was great. The voice acting was great. And the animation, I like the animation, though I did not like how Kingpin was drawn. I thought artistically he looked just absolutely awful. That was very distracting. I was very distracted by the way he looked. So distracted it was kind of taking away from, like focusing on the story. But anyway, yeah, fun movie, and so that's why it makes the honorable mention list. Next one. Avengers Infinity War. I did not like this movie as much as I thought I would, mostly because, I liked it, but I felt unfulfilled, obviously, because of the way it left you at the end. So I kind of really don't count Infinity War and Endgame as like two separate movies. To me, they're just one long movie. But because this is the year it came out, and I really did like it, even though I felt, unsatisfied about the ending, or dissatisfied, it still makes the list because it's part of the MCU and it was pretty well done. So, it's nonstop action. It was just like from start to finish, just nonstop. Great dialogue. Tony Stark was hilarious in here. It's just his little one-liners. Oh my gosh. He's so funny. So, yeah. So there's that one. Next one. Okay. Do I really even need to say any more about this? Oh, Henry Cavill. Yeah. Okay. But he was a baddie in here. I wasn't happy about that. But this is a really good film. A lot of action. And I was just getting very tense at some of the scenes. But yeah, Tom Cruise, as always, excellent in the role. And just another fun entry. I look forward to the next one whenever it comes out. So let me see. This 2018... Yeah, this one is the last one of my honorable mentions. So my number one for 2018 is Halloween 2018. I liked that they got rid of all the movies after the original, even though I did like H2O. That one was decent. But, so they basically go Halloween 1, and Halloween 2018. This was another movie that I was really nervous about how well it was going to go, how good it was going to be. So I stayed away from reviews, I stayed away from trailers, went to go see it, and was absolutely thrilled with how it went. The acting was really good. The score, of course, you know, the scary, typical score. John Carpenter came back to work on the score for this, and he did a really good job. And I like the whole mask. Of course, you know, they used a different actor. Well, the original actor did come back for like a one scene, I think. But anyway, I liked the way they did the storyline. It was obviously, you know, quite bloody. Not as bloody as I thought it was going to be. Certainly not to the level of some of the other Halloween movies that came after the first one. But still very well done. I loved the ending. Gave me chills, that scene where he's looking up at them after... Yeah, I'm getting into spoilers, and I said I wouldn't. But anyway, just really good. The score's just so good. Really puts you into that mood. And I'm super excited for the next one that's coming out. This is also going to be the next two that are coming out this coming year, 2020 and 2021. I'm going to do like a blackout of the trailers or reviews. I'm not going to look at any of them. So hoping that they're going to be as good as this one was, and it's going to be really well written and a good, satisfying conclusion to this story. I guess we'll see, but hopefully it'll end up as good as this one did. Okay, so now let's move on to the last year of the decade. Well, even though maybe not officially, I don't know. Maybe the decade really is not officially done until 2020, but whatever. 2019, favorite movies of 2019. Okay, for 2019, first honorable mention, and you know, the honorable mentions, they're not in any particular order. They're just honorable mention. Knives Out. I saw this on Thanksgiving Day, and I did a review video of it. So, you know, to get into anything more in depth about that, I guess I would just say, you know, go check out that review video, because I'm trying to wrap things up. I've been yammering on and on. Very good whodunit, sort of in the vein of like Agatha Christie type novels. The acting in here was just excellent. The writing was superb. Loved the writing. Loved how everything was tied up, and just really good. It takes these little twists and turns you don't expect, but it's definitely, I highly recommend this film. It's worth it. It was fun seeing it on the big screen. Probably don't need to, but it's definitely worth taking your time to watch it. So, next one. Alita Battle Angel. This movie was really good. I hadn't known anything about it until I heard that they were making a movie adaptation of it. And then I found out it was a manga, and then they also made a animated, like 50-minute movie or something like that. And so yeah, I really liked the digital work in this. Was phenomenal. It was so good. Like, you knew she wasn't, you know, a human, because she's like part cyborgish type, you know, part human. She's got a human brain and everything. But the digital work on her, was so good. It was, and just the way she moved, it was just amazing. The cinematography on this was really good. The writing in this was really good. The acting was really good. This was very fun. My only disappointment is the way it ended, like it's sort of open-ended. There's no conclusion, and we don't know yet if there's going to be a sequel. There might not be a sequel, because unfortunately it didn't perform spectacularly at the box office. I mean, it didn't do horribly, but it didn't do all that great. So that means a sequel might not be happening, which is disappointing, because I really would like to see a resolution to her story. But, you know, maybe one day we'll get lucky, but I don't know. So far, you know, the last I checked, there was nothing, unless something has changed very recently. There were no plans as of yet. There was the hope that there would be, and it's done really well in Blu-ray DVD sales. I mean, it's consistently like in the top. I think even very recently it was like number 1 or number 2 in one of like the categories in Amazon. So it's doing really well in sales still. And maybe, well, that might be what revives it and brings it back for a sequel. We'll see. Okay, moving on. Let's see, next movie. obviously Avengers Endgame. Now, I like the time travel thing for this, so obviously that's going to be why it makes my list of honorary mentions. I also liked the writing. I'm sure there's a lot of plot holes, and it kind of hurt my head to think about the different time stuff, and wait, if he did this, and how could he do this over here, and then I mess up this and this. I try not to think too hard about it. I just try to go with the flow for it. It was this movie that made me change my perspective on Black Widow and Scarlett Johansson's portrayal of Black Widow. It took her, what happened to her, to sort of like, oh, here I thought maybe I would be glad that it happened, and finally she's, but I wasn't. It was touching. That was a very, very touching scene, and it was very well done, quite moving. And I'm looking forward to her movie that's coming out. I really wish that this had been the movie that came out earlier this year. That should have been the first female MCU. They should have not ever even done Captain Marvel. It just doesn't really add much of anything of substance to this franchise. I feel like that was a huge mistake. I'm pretty sure that the reason that they did what they did with Captain Marvel is because they saw how successful Wonder Woman was, so they wanted to come out with their own. Like, they rushed this, female-led MCU, and then they throw her into the story, and it's like, they kept saying she was like a fan favorite. She's not really. She's not. As far as, the comics, no. So they just botched that whole thing, but really, if anyone deserved their own solo movie, if any one of the females in the franchise deserved it, it would have been Black Widow's character. She's been firmly established in the MCU. She's been with us since almost the beginning, since Iron Man 2. She's just entrenched. And why not? No, instead they throw this random... Anyway, so it does feel like her movie coming out next year is just a little bit too late. However, it will probably still do fairly well. And I do plan to see it, and I have a feeling that I'll probably like it already, more than, Captain Marvel, which I hate. So I like almost anything better than that. But anyway, it's okay. Yeah, Avengers Endgame, feel like a pretty good, decent wrap up to the Infinity War and to the Infinity War storyline, and quite well done and very fun. I saw this, I think, 3 times in theaters. Okay, so the next one. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I like this quite a bit more than I thought I would. It occurred to me as I was watching this that it was more like a slice of life type film for a good portion of it. That's what it was. And then, of course, the finale, it's just a huge payoff. Just go through the slower. It's kind of like a slow burn. I did a review for this the day that I saw it. I think it's up on my site. On my channel. So that goes a little bit more in depth as far as what I thought about it. But yeah, it was really fun. I like this kind of nostalgic type feel to it. The acting was really good, and the writing, the humor, and everything. Just typical Tarantino, which I like his films. So yeah, so that's what this one makes the honorable mention. So I think there's only, did I say mentioned? Slate. Mention. I think there's only one more honorable mention for 2019 before the final, and that is Happy Death Day to You. This one I did go see in theaters, and it was a lot of fun. It kind of veered away from the horror angle of it and went more to like sci-fi type stuff, but I still feel like it was a pretty decent wrap up to the story. I don't think there are plans to make a third one. From what I understand, it sort of underperformed. It did okay, but it underperformed compared to what the studio was expecting and hoping for. So any plans of another sequel, I think, are kind of like, no, not going to happen. But it doesn't really matter because it's still a pretty decent wrap up. It's not really open-ended stuff that I can recall, and just another fun entry. The humor in this series is fun. The main actress who plays the character in here, the main character Tree, she's really, really good, super good. She's funny, she's snarky, bitchy, but she can also do some really good dramatic acting. So yeah, I had to include this one. Okay, so the last one, which probably shouldn't be a surprise to anybody who has been watching anything that I've been posting up on YouTube, it's going to be Joker. This is my favorite film of 2019. I did not expect to like it as much as I ended up liking it. And the very first time I saw it, I thought this is a one-time viewing. It's good, but it's so dark and depressing and just, but this was a movie that just like embedded itself into my brain and I couldn't get it out of my head, and I still think about it a lot. Joaquin Phoenix's performance was absolutely phenomenal in here. The writing was great. I have seen it 4 times now in theaters, and I will be buying the Blu-ray, DVD, digital, whatever. I'll be buying that. So far, I have not found any plot holes or any writing weaknesses. There are no acting weaknesses. This story is just about pure perfection. It is so good, and really surprised me that I ended up liking it as much as I did. I knew I would, like I said, but I just did not expect that it was going to be so effective in its message and its storytelling and everything. So that's why it makes the number 1 for me for 2019. Now, I know I haven't seen 1917, and technically it does come out this year, but it's only limited. It doesn't come out wide release until 2020. So I'm personally not going to count that as a 2019 release. I'm going to count it as a 2020. Maybe 1917 would have been right on up there. I don't know. I kind of doubt that it would have overtaken Joker. But I do look forward to seeing it, and I do plan to see it whenever it comes out wide release next month. But yeah, for now, Joker is top for me for 2019, and I do believe Joker's probably now embedded itself into my top 10, which changes from time to time, but there are some that are just very firmly entrenched there, and I believe Joker is going to stay in my top 10 for quite a while, if not probably forever. So that's it, you guys, for my favorite films of the decade. I rambled very long. Sorry about that. I'm definitely going to be breaking this up into parts. So what were your favorite films of the decade? If you know, it's kind of hard to pick, right? Because it's a lot. It's easier if you just like pick one year and then that's my favorite films for the year. But then when you expand it out to 10 years, it's like, oh my gosh, I forgot that movie came out. I really like that movie. So anyway, so let me know what your favorites were, and let's talk about some good stories. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. It is late. I'm tired. And I have talked long enough. I'm tired of talking. Okay, bye.